Hello and a warm welcome to Top Story. It's exactly 7 years since Al-Qaeda destroyed thousands of lives in New York and Washington, ending hopes of a more peaceful world after the Cold War. Today the West takes stock of its fight against international terrorism. No security net is foolproof, of course. The London and Madrid bombings demonstrated that. But in Europe and the US, numerous plots are said to have been foiled. In Iraq, Al-Qaeda appears to be on the wane, but it's compensated by fighting back in Afghanistan and Pakistan. The cross-border insurgency there has brought the war on terror full circle. The US and its allies responded to September 11th by ousting the Taliban and Al-Qaeda from Afghanistan. Well, to discuss all these developments, I'm pleased to welcome Bernard Rougier, one of the top French experts in militant Islam. He's a research fellow at the Institute of Political Studies here in Paris. Good morning.
Good morning.
What is Al-Qaeda today? Is it an organization, a movement, or simply an idea that inspires different groups?
Well, let's say that it is everything at the same time. I think for a long time we have been thinking of Al-Qaeda just as a name and as an idea. There was an organization called Al-Qaeda. It was created in 1988 in Afghanistan. So there is an organization. But mainly, what is much more dangerous than the organization per se is the idea, the jihadist idea. Everybody speaks now about the anniversary of the 9/11, but maybe there is another anniversary, which is exactly 10 years ago, the statement of the World Islamic Front against Crusaders and Jews. I think it was the new phenomenon, if you want. That is this new ideology, which is global jihadism. And here is a change. I mean, the fight is now a world stage fight. There is no more local front or nationalist front. There is a anti-Americanism, that is, you can target Americans everywhere, even civilians. And this is what we can call global jihadism.
And this actually started before 9/11 with this World Islamic Front.
Exactly. It started at that time.
And what has the idea changed at all since 9/11?
I don't know exactly. I don't think so. I think that the idea is still much present. That is anti-Americanism. Since the fall of the Soviet Union, much of the fights which occurred at the borders of the former Soviet Union involved Muslim populations. So it was quite easy for certain clerics or intellectuals to say that all the suffering, or the Muslim suffering into brackets, is due to the United States. And this speech, or this frame in the discursive frame, is still very much present
it's
right
still
now.
Powerful.
Yes, it's still very much powerful.
When we talk about an Al-Qaeda network, what does that mean exactly?
Well, this is once again hard to say, because you have, as I told you, an organization which is not very weak, let's say, which has received many blows for the last 7 years.
In Iraq especially?
Let's say everywhere. In Iraq, due to the new policy of the new American policy of arming the tribes. And so it's quite weak. And it has also a very important strategic problems. What is in Iraq? What is the main enemy? Is it the Shia, the government, the Americans, the Sunni, which are collaborating in their own terms with the occupation? So you have here a debate among, let's say, Al-Qaeda members, or even among jihadist networks. Here you have this organization, which is quite weak, as I told you, and a lot of networks which are jihadist networks. Certain of these networks are pursuing a really nationalist fight, like it was the case in Chechnya before. I mean, they are focusing their energy on a special front without a worldview of an obsession about fighting United States everywhere in the world. And so you have a different kind of networks. Certain networks are stressing the fight against the Israelis in Palestine, and they are trying to have a role in the fight. Up to now, they didn't succeed.
In Gaza, they didn't get very far.
No, they didn't get. But what might fuel this jihadist idea, without speaking about Al-Qaeda, is the failure of the national construction in the Palestinian national state, which is failing right now. And what can fuel these jihadist ideas is the failure of all the social and political force in the Middle East.
But, you know, Bernard, the interesting thing is, you know, analysts were always saying when you get a failed state, Al-Qaeda can become more powerful. It doesn't always work that way.
No.
Gaza is a good example of when it doesn't work, and Iraq as well, because there are so many competing potential enemies for Al-Qaeda, so it can't rally round.
It's true, but I think it's not that. It's also true that when you have these failing states, when you have no more nationalist perspectives, no more real political stage, you can have really a margin for those kind of networks and people. What is very important for analysts, and this is why it's so hard to speak about it, is just to have all the time the context in mind. We have to see that the jihadist, for example, networks in Gaza are not the jihadist networks in Iraq, even if they have the same discourse very often. We have to take in mind the specifics of each situation, really, to understand. And the debate among those, they have really an inner debate about what is the main target, what should we do
within these networks.
Exactly, within these networks.
Our question today, Bernard, is who is Al-Qaeda? And a lot of people would answer that question by saying Osama bin Laden. Is that still accurate?
I think, well, we don't know if he's still alive. Personally, I would think that he is still alive. I think it is still accurate, let's say, because Al-Qaeda still has a label, like a company in a certain way. So it can give the label to all the networks in Lebanon, in Iraq.
Maghreb as well.
In the Maghreb as well. And this is what we have been seeing for the last 5 years. I mean, it still have a very strong legitimacy due to 9/11. And so it can give this legitimacy to other networks. We can say we are the representatives of Al-Qaeda. They just they didn't work from Al-Qaeda from the very beginning, but they received the label Al-Qaeda, and it gives them a lot of legitimacy due to 9/11.
So perhaps bin Laden and his right-hand man Ayman al-Zawahiri, we just saw in the pictures there, are they now irrelevant, just briefly?
No, I think they're still very relevant. Still, bin Laden played a very important role in formulating this ideology. Ayman al-Zawahiri at the very beginning was trying to topple the Egyptian regime, but the international idea of jihad is still very strong.
Okay, on that note, we'll have to end it. Thank you very much. Bernard Rougier from Sciences Po, the Institute of Political Studies in Paris, author of this book, Everyday Jihad, published by Harvard Press. Thank you very much for watching, and do join us for another edition of Top Story tomorrow.